And we are the Y'all Show. Time for our special treat where we go to Nashville and get joined here on the program by Preshias Harris, as she has all the scoop of what's going on Music Row in Nashville, Tennessee. And Preshias is on right now to give us the latest as we celebrate the 4th of July this week. Hey, let's go to our own firecracker, Preshias Harris. Hey, Preshias.
Hello. And speaking of firecrackers, I hear them going off in our neighborhood.
Do
so
you
it's
really?
starting early.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know. Is that legal where you are?
Probably not
Okay.
in the suburb. But I'm hoping some of this rain, if people do decide to do it, I'm hoping it will not be dangerous with because I live in a very wooded area. It's a very older neighborhood. There's a huge park across the street. So if something goes boom, it's not going to be easy to be able to take care of the fire.
That we know.
That sounds so Kentucky Fire.
Yeah. Hey, if you want
Tired.
to reach out to Preshias or contact us here at the Y'all Show, 803-816-1170 is how you can find us here at the Y'all Show. We are visiting with Preshias Harris, and she is the czar of the Nashville Music Line. She also has collegeofsongology.com, and you can go to that website right now and learn a whole lot more about what she does to help out. She's in the hippin' business of Music Row, and we're on with her each week to give everybody the latest dose of country music news and information. And you can also go to Nashville Music Line to learn more about what Preshias does to help out on Music Row. We'll have a little bit more about what she does later, plus a trivia question coming our way from Preshias Harris. But Preshias, I read the other day where coming up in just a few days, more of these artists are going to be doing these drive-in concerts. Brad Paisley's going to be doing one in both St. Louis and at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. How are you going to have a drive-in concert at Nissan Stadium?
I think I was speaking with someone earlier today about the logistics of that.
Okay.
Knowing what we paid as taxpayers for that turf, I'm anxious to see how they do it. The only thing I can think of is that they're going to try to put down some kind of substance to handle the weight of the cars.
Do you think it might be in the parking lot of Nissan Stadium?
I think it's probably going to be in the parking lot because the parking lot is massive. And they can actually set screens around on the other side of the stadium that one screen faces another massive parking lot that will hold, I think, 18 to 2,000 cars. And then the other one, I think it was during Fanfare, I think they maxed it out at 10 or 15,000 cars.
Okay.
So it's going to be massive.
Yeah.
I would like to see who is the person in charge of parking arrangements.
Yeah.
Because I would give him a bottle of Excedrin before he starts and a bottle of Z-Quil when he leaves.
He might want a bottle of Jack Daniels to go along with whatever you're giving him.
But see, Jack Daniels don't sponsor our show because I can't say Jack.
Oh, you don't know Jack, huh? But yeah, Brad Paisley, he actually kicks this whole drive-in concert phenom going on. He starts it in St. Louis at the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater, and that's the Friday after 4th of July week. We're talking July 10th, 11th, somewhere along those. It's the Friday after this coming weekend. And then
10th, yes.
He's going to be in Nashville on the Saturday night after that, the 11th. Darius Rucker will be at Nissan Stadium as he follows Brad with a concert on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. We assume the parking lot. So if you're just dying to go to a concert, no matter where you are in the South right now, this gives you an option to see two pretty big names, Brad Paisley and also Darius Rucker, with an opportunity in Nashville at least to see them. And if you want to go to St. Louis, you can see Brad Paisley's playing there on that Friday. Nelly, who has a little bit of a country music history, Nelly is going to be performing in St. Louis the Sunday of next weekend. Of course, he had that song with Tim McGraw many years ago. That wasn't the name of the song. Over and Over Again, I believe, was the song. You remember that one, Preshias?
Oh, yes.
Okay. How are you? Hey, can you believe this? It wasn't last year. 2 years ago, I saw Nelly in concert. Yeah, John, Mr. Country Boy, went to a Nelly concert. Preshias, and I actually survived. I won't say I enjoyed it, but I actually made it out of there unscathed.
Hey, let me tell you, there's a whole lot of Nelly fans that didn't know about how wonderful country music was.
Okay.
And that's a good way to have someone like you who just broadcasted it on your show about that you're a huge country fan, that, you know, that you may have not enjoyed it, but you went. And that's the most important thing.
Well, I did get out of there a little early to beat the traffic, so maybe the more fun stuff was after I left. But the place was packed. I'll give Nelly credit for that. Let's talk about somebody else packing it out these days. Gaby Barrett. She's country music's new golden girl, and she's breaking all kind of records with her debut album, Goldmine. Precious, tell me about Gaby. Give me the gab on Gaby.
Well, I've gotten like 5 press releases, and they're all in my brain right now, so I may have to cheat. But Gaby was on season 16 of American Idol, and my client was on season 15, I think, before that. Yeah, season 15. But Gaby, her dad was with her through the journey, and from the very beginning, you could tell that if she didn't win, she was going to be really flipping close to, you know, the top 2, top 3. But she got signed to Warner Brothers, and she's been in the studio working on her debut project. And, of course, we saw her last year at CRS, but she's already got ACM nominations and CMA nominations. But and she ended up marrying one of the guys that she met that he was on Idol, too. So they ended up starting dating after the show aired and everything, and now they recently got married. I think 3 months ago, a couple of months ago. It's not been long. So anyway, but she's had over, I think, let me double check on this. Yeah, I think they said 11.3 million streams, which is massively huge for her. And it goes to show that Warner Brothers must be doing something right, because her co-label mate, Ingrid Andress, has got the same amount of downloads and things going on. Matter of fact, later on I'll tell you, she's just got certification this month. June was a good month for country music for certifications.
Precious, but, you're guilty of saying not a double negative, but a double positive. You just said massively huge, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
In Kentucky, we can do that.
Well, I don't know if there is such a thing as a double positive, but you just gave Gaby that honor. So, yeah, she's got a lot of big stuff happening, and she's got a lot, as we said.
She also is extremely talented. She's probably the new girls, what I call new girls on the block, that's been out for less than a year and a half, 2 years. She and Ingrid and Caylee Hammack, and I got to see Caylee at Tampan South last year, I think. Yeah, last year. And she was just a hoot, full of personality. Her family was there. So she is a true redhead, too.
And
yeah, I'm excited for Gaby, because I know that, you know, I think she had to wait a year and a half after she got signed to get anything out. But, you know, they wanted to make sure they were doing it right. And that's what they do. We got to leave the trust in them, because everything Warner Brother touches is either gold, platinum, or multi-platinum.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Caylee, and we're going to talk about her as part of a 3-pack of new female artists here that we're going to discuss. So we'll put Gaby in the rearview mirror. Let's talk about Caylee Hammack. Her new song is called Red, and she got a pretty heavy-hitting redhead to join her on the song. I've seen the music video. I guess because of the coronavirus, they couldn't actually bring in her guest in the flesh for this music video, but you sure hear her. And let's talk about this really cool song for all those redheads out there. And I have a really close connection to a redhead, and they sure are special. So talk about Redhead Caylee Hammack.
Her special guest is actually one of my favorite classic country artists, is Miss Reba. And I know everybody says Reba McEntire, but it's sort of like Elvis and Dolly. When you say Reba, everybody around the world knows who Reba is with just that 4-letter word, you know.
Yeah.
But
a good that's a good 4-letter word right there, Reba.
That's a good 4-letter word, yes. And Miss Reba actually came into the studio, and she actually helped work and added her Reba touch to it, and it became an actual anthem, is what Caylee is calling it.
Okay.
For redheads. And, you know, Reba's a redhead. Her son Shelby's a redhead. And they said, I think I was looking up the other day, because I have green eyes. Green eyes makes up 2% of the entire world, green-eyed people. So redheads make up less than 3%.
That's amazing.
So that's a very small amount. And to have two really sweet and wonderful, talented redheads to grace country music, I think we're pretty lucky.
And Caylee Hammack, a redhead. And again, Reba is with her on this new song called, is it called Redhead or Red? What's it called? Red?
Redhead, just Redhead.
Okay, Redhead. And I prefaced this conversation about redheads talking about I had someone near and dear to me that's a redhead. And I got to give a shout out because Precious, my redhead, is my 10-year-old son. And guess who his roughly 8th cousin is? This is no joke. He's kin to Reba McEntire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a connection.
Well, he has that spirit that he is going to be a major television personality. For him to be 10 years old, he has the best personality and can hold any conversation.
Enough about him. I'm only telling you this because he gets his connection to Reba off of his mother's side, not off of my side. There's no kin of mine that I'm aware of that's that talented. Including,
that's right. You're on the East Coast.
Yeah, including myself. Sorry. I'm not very talented, especially when it comes to singing. But, yeah, he's kin to Reba. I don't know the exact connection, but there's a definite connection. And so there's something in those redheaded genes that are oh so good.
Well, if it is, he's got the personality to match.
Tell me more about Caylee. Do you know where Caylee's from?
Her family came. I want to say that she is from the South. I remember that because she gave a shout out to her daddy, and she said her hometown really, really quick.
Oh. Okay.
When she was there, she was so excited. She gave a shout out to her family before she sang "Family Tree."
Ah, okay. Well, our research staff will have to look that up real quick while you continue to talk about these ladies of country music. And let's move on to a Canadian, and that's Tenille Townes. I've seen a video of her. In fact, her stuff's showing up a lot in my social media feed as she is a Canadian from Alberta and has got a lot of buzz about her as she's a 2-time ACM Award nominee. Her debut album is The Lemonade Stand. What can you tell us about Tenille Townes?
Well, excuse me.
And I hope her name is Tenille, or if not, it's Tenille. I don't know how they pronounce it in Canada.
Actually, she doesn't really got that edge of a Canadian accent. She played it once again last year at Tin Pan South. She played, I think it was the room at the top of the City Winery. And she is actually an incredible songwriter, which I think is one of the main things that's, running her career down the track. Because it doesn't hurt to be sweet, beautiful, talented, and a great songwriter. But anyway, but she's been doing a charity, Big Hearts for Big Kids. And she actually collects funds to help kids who don't have a place to live, things like that, happen to be out on their own. But she's been a super charity person ever since that I got to meet her a little over 2 years ago with her publicist, and got to introduce me to her at CMA Fest at the Media Room. And but she's one of those people who, whatever she does, she always goes at 100%. And I think she's even recruited some guests. Dierks Bentley's going to be on the cast, and Brandy Carlisle, who is the co-writer of 6 of the Grammy songs that Tanya Tucker got a Grammy for. And then also Luke Combs, Mr. North Carolina, who's actually really making a name for the state of North Carolina the last couple of years in Music City. Yeah, she's got some good people coming on, so I'm anxious to be able to watch it.
All right, that's good news to know coming from our own Music Row insider, Preshias Harris. And our research staff has done the intense background check on Caylee Hammack. She is from the big town of Ellaville, Georgia. That is roughly halfway between Columbus and Albany, Georgia. It's in the country.
You see why I couldn't remember the name. Yeah. It's got 4 syllables.
And I'm a guy who has spent time living in Georgia, North Georgia, to be specific. It's the Empire State of the South with around 150 counties. I'd never heard of her town, and I'd never heard of the town that county is in, that Ellaville's in, and that is, I think it's pronounced Schley, Schley County, Schley County, Georgia. I apologize. I have never been to that county. In fact, Precious, when I look up the notable people, this brings maybe someone to mind, another famous person from that county. I mean, not just the town, the entire county. They only got 4 people listed, from that county in Georgia. And one of those 4 is Brent Cobb, a country music singer. Are you familiar with Brent Cobb?
Brent Cobb, C-O-B-B?
Brent Cobb. He was on Elektra Records. He's not that old.
No, and you said the last name is C-O-B-B?
Yeah, Brent Cobb, and he had an album come out in 2018, and he was on Low Country Sound and imprint of Elektra, and he got a Grammy Award nomination for his album that was out called On a Rainy Day. So Brent Cobb, I think I've seen that name.
You have his brother is probably who you're thinking of, Dave Cobb.
Oh,
he
okay.
just finished working on a 1,000 Horses record. He did The Traveler for Chris Stapleton. He also did a couple of tracks, I think, on Dylan Carmichael's album. He does Jason Isbell. He's done Sturgill Simpson. He has got that wonderful fairy dust touch when it comes to artists like that. You can put him a little bit Americana, a little bit in alternative rock, a little bit in the country. But he's award-winning producer. He's won several awards. And his brother has.
It's not his brother. According to my research staff, Brent Cobb is his cousin. And they
cousin, that's it, cousin.
And they met at
You know how it is in Georgia. It's like Kentucky trees sometimes don't fork.
Yeah, well, they met at a funeral, and a funeral brought them together. So
Isn't that wonderful?
Makes you want to go to funerals now. But yeah, that's the connection there to that spot in Georgia. Let's talk about Kenny Chesney. Man, Kenny Chesney, just before we're coming on with you, I heard 2 great songs of the mid-1990s on my local country radio station. One was John Berry, who doesn't get enough airplay. John Berry, and it wasn't maybe his most famous song. It was a song called Standing on the Edge of Goodbye. I haven't heard that on the radio in 20-something years, and boy, it sounded great.
I know. I love that song.
And then the other song I heard was How Forever Feels from Kenny Chesney. And I'd have to say that's the song that kind of got him really going back around 1996, 97. When that song and video came out, it kind of helped get that kind of coastal and tropical vibe going for Kenny Chesney. What do you think of that?
Yeah, his style, when it hit, because he had on a cowboy hat and jeans and boots when he used to go over. I told you, used to two-step with our bunch. We used to, there used to be a lot of us run around town, and some of them I knew because most of the people I knew were people I went to school with at Belmont that were actually became publicists. There was a few artists I went with, Belmont, that ended up dropping out because they got record deals.
Yeah.
And I dropped out because I got a really good job with a hit writer and a huge publishing company that was a part of Curb Records. And but Kenny, he's the one, him and Tim both jumped in and helped Tracy, because Tracy used to let Kenny open up for him on his concerts.
You're talking about Tracy
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Deals, right, between Capricorn and B&A. But, Kenny also had a really good manager who still is manager today. That the actual management company was Morris Hyam, which is Clint Hyams' manager. Clint and I were interns together at Atlantic in 1991.
I see.
I think Mr. Morris decided to retire down in Boca Raton. But Clint has been his manager now for close to 25 years or more. I do know that at the time Kenny was with Mr. Morris and Mr. Hyam, that they had a band they were managing called Alabama. And Kenny got a lot of opening slots in that tour, wherever Alabama was at. And, Alabama's their shows were sold out. There was just, trying to get a ticket is like, trying to get a tattoo in the middle of a plane ride. But anyway, he made really good decisions. And he, once you find someone that's really good for you and manage you and works well and they are like family, but he also trusts that Clint will make really good decisions for him, and he really has. So,
well, somebody's
I'm
making
happy with Kenny. Like I said, I remember he came in and one of his songs called "Don't Blink" was #1, and one of my friends, Chris Wallen, was a songwriter on it. And we went to the #1 party over at ASCAP, and Kenny came in, and he had his ball cap on backwards and cut off shirt, hair, sleeves, and and his flip flops. It was really hot. I do remember that. And he came up and he said, "I came here to support the songwriters who have made my career And he was very much low key, not a lot of spotlights. He kept praising the songwriters. It was all about them, and that's why he was there. So I thought that was really, really cool. And I think he literally flew from where he had, I think he's got a house in St. John's, I think, or St. Martin, maybe it's St. John's. Anyway, but he flew all the way in just for this party and was flying back just so he could show support to the songwriter.
Yeah, I remember.
So kudos to Mr. Kenny.
I remember somewhere along that timeline, you were probably there as well. He had a big party there at a Mexican restaurant in Green Hills, right next to the Green Hills Mall, I think, for this same album we were talking about from the mid-'90s. And I think he had just flown in for that one when I covered that. But 25 years since that time, as of right now, Kenny Chesney, numero uno, and he's number one in the Here and Now for a song called Here and Now. What a great feat for KC, Kenny Chesney, ETSU alumnus.
Oh, yeah, and he also in 1997 had his first number one song. So if you add up the number one song since 1997, he's got a really, really good record going on. And I think it was She's Got It All. I love that song. I still love that song.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite songs.
He's got a lot of good songs. And Kenny, unlike some other artists, has kind of known when to back off putting out new records for a while to where you don't get the fatigue like you might have had with other artists. Toby Keith. But I'm ready for a new Toby Keith record. It's been a while. And so, Toby, if you're listening.
As a matter of fact, there's a story for that, too. All
right, go for it.
Chris Wallen song, he's the only songwriter ever for this to be happened to. His number one song was A Man of My Conviction by Toby Keith. Well, his song that he wrote for Kenny, Don't Blink, knocked Toby's song out of the number one spot, A Man of My Conviction. So there's never been a songwriter, and till this day, I remember that's what they were having such a huge celebration. I think why Kenny showed up is there's never been a songwriter where one of his songs is number two and knocked his other song that was number one out of number one, and then it became a number one within like 14 days. So I thought that's a pretty cool historical happening as far as the songwriting community on Music Row.
Had not heard of that. Let's talk about another act that came out just after Kenny Chesney got to be really big on the chart, Rascal Flatts. Now, this was supposed to be their swan song here this year. They were going to fade off into the distance, but the pandemic's kind of sent that plan off the cliff. But they got new music coming. What can you tell us about what's going on with the trio Rascal Flatts?
Well, I actually saw them on Good Morning America. Was it last week? They debuted the How They Remember You. I met Rascal Flatts years ago when they were the backup band for an artist that I was interviewing called Shelley Wright.
Oh, yeah. And
they ended up, and a friend of mine at the time was playing drums, Preston Stanfield, and he actually worked with them and, introduced them around town and helped them get to where they are. Made a lot of introductions. But their last album has the who's who of hit songwriters on it, from Josh Osborne to Kentucky Boys, Josh Osborne, and
I hope Kentucky pays you. I hope Kentucky pays you for every plug you give the Commonwealth, because you sure do promote Kentucky.
Hey, I'm not the only one. I was watching, I love Sturgill Simpson, and he did a bluegrass record. And I'm not going to tell you who says this, but I have a friend that says his favorite sound of a banjo is hitting the bottom of a trash dumpster. That's all I'm going to say, okay? So I was looking at watching the show at the Ryman a few weeks back, and there's Sturgill with his big old Kentucky shirt on. I was like, yay, go Big Blue. But it was he also had Sierra Hull, I think, on the mandolin, which I love mandolin. It's my favorite instrument. So it was pretty cool to see him do that. If you want to catch a really good bluegrass show, and he does make it very clear that when he left his record label, Elektra, that he's going back to his roots, with what he was raised on in Kentucky, was bluegrass. Okay. And it's actually an incredible record. He still sounds like Sturgill Simpson with that gravelly, wonderful voice that's just almost like an air of Chris Stapleton. And but he he does bluegrass with a twist, and it's just wonderful. And he said he was the happiest he's ever been, was playing with all those A players, unfortunately, to still an empty audience at the Ryman, to doing what he really loves, which is bluegrass. So, but back to that, we've got Thomas Rhett. Everybody loves Thomas Rhett. He's such a wonderful family man and a wonderful father and a husband, and then his daddy, Rhett Akins. So they've got a bunch of huge, huge songs. I'm guessing by looking at this list that between these writers, because I know Ashley Gorley as a songwriter has hit 49, I think even maybe 50 number ones as a songwriter. He's actually outdone the Beatles. They actually need to put him in the Kentucky Music Hall of Fame, but that's just my opinion. And then Rhett Akins, I think, has had 36 number ones. So just total of Ashley and Jesse and Thomas and Rhett together, they've had over 120 number one records as songwriters. That's freaking huge. I'm assuming this is not going to be anything different with the songs they've got on this record.
Precious, I am wearing my throwback CMT shirt here, and it's very, very apropos that I wear that because our next part of the Nashville Music Line report from you is a trivia question that has to do with country music television. It was on this day back in 2005 that this song, Redneck Yacht Club, it was number one on CMT, and I want to know from you in a minute who took that song to number one at CMT, Redneck Yacht Club. A perfect song for a holiday weekend, by the way, and I'm excited to talk about the singer of that and what all is going on with that singer in a minute. But that's our trivia question that Precious is going to help us answer in just a moment. Hey, I know you have something about Blake Shelton that you want to pass along. We probably should have talked about this when we were talking about Redheads, because this has to do with Old Red. What's going on with BS, Blake Shelton?
Well, I've got a lot of notes here, so let me tell you that I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, we don't want you to miss anything.
We were supposed to do a press conference via Zoom Friday with Blake at 2. I got an email that morning saying that we had to cancel it because of the press conference about him opening up the Orlando, which we know is the epicenter right now for the COVID cases, hitting all record high for all the cities in America. But just out of caution, because they've had this plan for at least 2 weeks before everything just started, cities opening up spiraled out of control. But apparently, just to make sure everything was okay, they went ahead and postponed it, and they did a deep cleaning on it to make sure. But he's got some really cool memorabilia that's going to be there, tractors hanging in it. But the menu, which I think is pretty cool, if you come to Nashville, you're going to have a lot of different local flavors and regional meals there, like fried corn fritters, which I love. They're so good. And then he's going to have a menu catering toward the Florida Orlando, like I think they're going to be adding some seafood stuff. But anyway, he's always has signature drinks to that area. But hopefully he will be able to do the press conference. We'll find out more. But I didn't realize "Oh Red" was recorded by George Jones and Kenny Rogers.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know it either. So hopefully it's the same one. I didn't listen, but the research says it is.
Yeah.
So
well, Kenny and the Possum sure missed out, because that could have been a signature song for them, kind of like it's one for Blake Shelton. Although I think both Possum and the Gambler did pretty well without that song if they didn't have a chance to put it out as a radio success. But he has his place in Nashville. We hope it's up and going as much as any place there on Lower Broadway can possibly be. Just around the corner from Old Red is the Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum. And Precious, I think they've just come out with an announcement about what they're doing in terms of the coronavirus. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, they've actually, they were supposed to open up this week. And I think they were trying to capture some of the July 4th visitors, because they know that our city is in what I call, and I never use this word, but it's called dire as far as the tourism, because we literally were the number one tourist city in America. To over 50% of it has completely gone. we've lost millions of dollars with the NAMM show being canceled here, which is a big trade show for the music merchandisers like Gibson and Martin and things like that. Then we lost umpteen, as I'm going to use the word umpteen. If you know from Kentucky, you know that means a lot of money for the CMA Fest that actually goes back into our city. So I'm hoping that will change. That will do it, but they've Country Music Hall of Fame said they don't want to endanger the visitors, especially if they happen to trace it back to several people getting sick at the Country Music Hall of Fame. That's going to be really bad press. So to avoid that and for safety of our visitors and our tourists, they postponed the opening of it till July 31st, and hoping that this new wave and curve that's hitting us, that it will be calmer and by the end of July. That'll give us 2 weeks, 14 days of quarantine, and then another 14 days of quarantine, if, of people that do want to visit. I hate it because it's one of my favorite places, and I know that Nashville needs that establishment. It's very much part of like the Ryman Auditorium and things like that. The George Jones Museum, Johnny Cash Museum, those are all the big tourist attractions downtown that's been suffering. But I know they're right with all my heart, 100%, to stop the opening or reschedule the opening until July 31st.
Precious, let's answer that trivia question. And I was wrong. This song was not number 1 15 years ago. It debuted on CMT. Redneck Yacht Club. It came out in 2005 from which country music artist?
And I have a story about that too. Craig Morgan.
And I know you got a story, and I bet you it has something to do with Atlantic Records.
Well, actually, you know me. Is that right? Yeah. I love my songwriters right here. Yeah. I love my songwriters. And actually, the songwriter on that record, Tom Shepard, and I were really good friends. And I got to hear the original demo that they made for Craig. So I was pretty excited. I knew it was going to be a hit. It's one of those, roll down your windows, throw the top down. And it was just wonderful. And Tom also had another successful song that actually for a Texan, I think he's Texas, a guy named David Ball. And he had a song called Driving Private Malone. And it's like a story song. There's not a verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It's just telling a story. And then there's the chorus, and then it goes into the final bridge, and then the chorus. But, and I know that's songwriter talk, but I love it. The way it's just a wonderful story song. We all love story songs.
Yeah, that was a big hit.
Anyway, but his name's Tom Shepard, and I think he's living in Austin now.
Okay.
And he's got a full-on career singing and doing music and writing songs. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool because I remember when that video came out, it was just like explode. It was like the most, since Chattahoochee, it was like one of the most played summer songs, I think, of that year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was when they did the countdown. So, yeah, Chattahoochee, and it's right up there with it.
Yep. Tom Shepard and Steve Williams wrote Redneck Yacht Club, and it went to be certified gold by RIA for sales of over 500,000, and also gold for digital downloads. It peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart back in 2005. It was the second single from Craig's album, My Kind of Livin'. And we want to say a special hello to Craig Morgan of Tennessee. I think he is from the Dixon area originally, and this being 4th of July week, and he a former Army soldier, I think a paratrooper at one point, and he's done a good job on country music. Of course, his family went through a tragedy several years ago with the passage of his son while, I believe, out on the Tennessee River, out probably partaking of something like a Redneck Yacht Club, and unfortunately drowned several years ago. So with a holiday weekend, it's just a good reminder for everybody to just be very safe. I know that's one of the few things people can enjoy right now is their boat, or to get out on the water somewhere and just take it safe and take it slow. And let's hope everybody has the best holiday weekend they can possibly have. Precious, some country music history notes here. It was this week back in 1972 that Opryland USA Theme Park and the Opryland Hotel celebrated their grand opening. And that, of course, such a big deal in Nashville throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s until They made some bad decisions around the millennium, and they shut down the theme park. It's now an outlet mall. But yeah, back in the day, around 2.5 million people visited Opryland, USA every year, the home of American music. And I used to work there and I used to go on lunch breaks and ride roller coasters there at Opryland, USA. Such a really cool place. And those of us who have been around Nashville, we sure miss that place. But the Opryland Hotel is still going strong and a great addition to the Nashville community. Garth Brooks received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame this week back in 1995. 25 years ago, Garth had such a big presence around the whole world, and he continues to have that large presence there with a Hollywood Walk of Fame. Some birthdays, Precious. This week, country music birthdays include Kelly Pickler with a birthday June 28th, Cole Swindell, his birthday June 30th, and the 1st of July, Keith Whitley, the late great singer from Kentucky. He was born July 1st, 1953. Of course, he passed away tragically in 1989. South Carolina boy Aaron Tippin with a birthday, born in 1958, his birthday July 3rd. And then on the 4th of July, how about this? The unfortunate, we talked about Keith Whitley's unfortunate death. Well, how about this unfortunate tragedy? String bean from the Grand Ole Opry, David Eggman. He was murdered in Nashville in 1973. He and his wife both were murdered by someone who tried to go in there and find some hidden money, and he was killed in 73, but he was born in 1916 on the 4th of July. And then the group formerly known as Lady Antebellum, Precious, Dave Haywood, with a birthday coming up on the 5th of July. And that's a quick look at some of our birthdays going on in country music. Precious, what are you and yours doing for this holiday weekend?
We are going to probably sit at home and listen to the firecrackers and put some thunder vest on our animals.
Now, Nashville historically, for at least the last decade, has had a massive fireworks show. Has that been shelved this year?
Actually, I've not heard. It seemed like they were still on the table.
Okay.
I haven't read the news, honestly, in about 3 days.
I don't blame you.
Because everybody's trying to get all these press releases out to the media before the 1st of July. And, of course, it is what they call the physical year and things like that.
Yeah.
But before I forget, I want to name a kid. I know I'm saying about Kentucky. Please don't be angry. But there's another Kentucky girl that's fixing to get a star on the Walk of Hollywood, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I know of two, a pair of girls.
Judd.
Well,
I mean, pair of girls, yeah.
You don't consider Wynonna a Kentuckian?
Well, I do, but I got an invitation for a meet and greet with Miss Naomi. So that's why I remember just seeing Naomi's picture on the invitation.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm very proud of Wynonna and Miss Naomi.
Naomi has come a long way. Remember, they kind of split up as a duo, as a mother-daughter duo, because of Naomi's health problems. That was part of the reason that they kind of split up in the early 90s. And we're pushing nearly 30 years that I think she had hepatitis. Does that sound right?
Yeah, she had gotten it. She worked in a dialysis clinic, and she had gotten it from a patient somehow, some way. I don't know whether she, stick herself trying to put them on dialysis, because you do have to use, pretty good sized needles for dialysis, or use their port. But anyway, she somehow contracted it that way.
Okay.
But apparently it's in remission and been almost dormant. So, which is good for her. And I know she's taken a lot of natural health steps to take care of it without having to do long-term medication. And she seems to be doing good. And I think at one time I read that her liver, they were worried about her liver because it does affect your liver. But that's back working okay. And as far as I know, she's back to 100%. And she flipping looks amazing.
Does she? Well, again, it's been nearly 30 years since the big announcement that she was suffering from hepatitis, and here they are about to, again, be honored with a Hollywood star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in Nashville. Precious, as we wrap up with you, I do want to talk about one thing that, since you normally come on here and talk a little bit about how you can help people on Music Row, I saw this just before we started on today's show as I was driving around the highways and byways of the Southland. And this image is too small for me to share, but it's from a Long John Silver's restaurant, so you know it's going to be factual. But they put up on their marquee outside, now offering 2 liters. And I think they meant to say 2 liters, but it's spelled 2 Litters. So maybe they've got a bunch of cats that they serve. I know they have catfish, but somebody needs to do a little spell check on their sign there. And it just brought up a question that I have for you. When you're a songwriter, you don't really have to be that good of a speller, do you?
No.
I know you help enter in songs. Do you have to correct people's spelling on their songs?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, somebody had entered in a song, and they wrote it on the sheet where they wrote their song out. The hit writer put apostrophe that wrote with my client. Well, my client didn't use apostrophe and put ing. So it's such a discrepancy that none of them are going to get paid until I take out. The songwriter's mother hands me over all of the passcodes to their account, said, "Here, fix it." I said, well, once it's in the global database, it's sort of like, I'd say like a pandemic. It's going to be forever before we can delete it and upload the correct one. But thank goodness for BMI and thank goodness for ASCAP that they worked together and we fixed it. But yes, spelling is, you may not have to spell good, but you better be able to enter correctly.
Okay. That is helpful knowledge coming from our lady on Music Row, Preshias Harris. And don't forget, go to collegeofsongology.com to learn more about what she can do to help you or help someone you know. It would be the perfect 4th of July present to have Preshias help you get to Nashville and Music Row. Preshias, thank you very much. We will talk to you sometime after the 4th.
See you then. Bye-bye.
All right. More of the Y'all Show is coming up. We'll be back.